Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Father of a Stolen Child, 10th Man, Neil, Paul, The Plain Truth, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Greetings.
Hello, hello, hello. What ho?
Hello.
Well, that's a super enthusiastic Wednesday hello from Discord, isn't it? So pleased to have you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Not since Lake Pontchartrain pictures shown by Travis.
Mic discipline, Travis.
Mic discipline. What did I do? Oh, typing?
Yeah, just don't sit with your mic open. God, you've been here for a while, eh? Yes, that's right. The production level's higher here, Travis. Owen. Hey, Owen.
Hello.
Good to have you. So,
Good to be here.
Earth curvature. We're on the first housekeeping question. We're not doing well.
Oh,
I'm doing great.
what is curvature?
Well, it's not Pontchartrain, that's for sure.
It's maths.
Just maths. That's right.
Yeah,
That's correct. Whoever
that's
said
it.
that? Who said that?
Me, it's maths, Nathan.
Don
That's
Gio,
what it
yes.
is.
Spot on.
Only.
Just maths. Not something physical, not something we experience. Claim to be only visible in the geometry of their mathematical model. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth base?
Hang on. Didn't Rumpus say it's all in the maths? That it's. Don't they admit to that already?
Quote him. He said
He
the
has said
geometric.
that once.
He said the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. End quote.
That's not what we used to say.
Yeah, you say block boats and buildings.
Yeah, that's not what we. I couldn't believe that people are trying to say that it's refracted geometry. That's oxymoron.
Yeah, if the tangent's bent, it's not a tangent, and you can't do geometry anymore. If the
Square circle.
can't square a circle. In this instance, if you've got a tangent point to do geometry, that is the physical leading edge of the sphere, beyond which they say things are blocked, with the physicality of the tangent point. Well, if you don't have that in the position of the geometry in the maths, it isn't a tangent point, you can't do geometry, and furthermore, the assertion that it isn't geometric is the assertion to say it's not physical. Well, not physical means not Earth curve. Not getting in the way of boats and buildings. Not a tangent point, not geometric. Not a sphere.
Precisely.
You heard the
Anymore?
presupposing narrative that Globers argue nowadays? First, you have to remove the atmosphere to be able to test it.
Al-Biruni's claimed to have just climbed a mountain and got R by way of dip angle to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Tangent point in their maths, with the little word next to it, horizon. That's their horizon. Their horizon's geometric, whether they like it or not. Saying you have to remove the atmosphere. It's like, so in order to claim that the physical geometric sphere edge is blocking boats and buildings, we need to remove atmosphere. No, you just claim it blocks boats and buildings with its physical nature. Until we debunked it with the black swan, now we need to remove all the atmosphere, air in a sphere shape, that doesn't exist. There is no atmosphere.
Yeah, but that's not new. I've heard that before.
Yeah, but back
Not
then,
anything new.
back then in the antiquity times, people could remove the atmosphere, measure it, and put it back on.
Right.
To assert it is to also debunk the geometry. We can't see a geometric horizon because we've got atmosphere in the way. Well, then you can't see a geometric horizon. You can't assert it's blocking boats and buildings. You can't use it as a tangent point in your maths. You can't see it. You can't see it. We've only got one horizon, and the horizon in their Earth curve maths is geometric. It's just that simple. We've only got one. It's not geometric. The horizon is not physical. It's not Earth curve.
This is when they come and say there's 5 or 6 different horizons just to convolute it.
Yeah, you've got it.
I have a question.
Any more for any more?
was that
Crack
when
villain, go ahead.
Yeah, were they trying to derive a radius of a sphere using spherical trig? Was that like so? Who first proved it was a globe in the first place before they started trying to derive geometry of a sphere on the Earth using dip angles, as Al-Biruni did?
No one.
Do we know
no
the
one
name of the
ever
guy
proved
who proved it was a sphere first before we tested the radius?
No one.
Do we know that name?
No one.
No one proved it.
Oh, so it was a presupposition of spherosity. So this is a double begging the question fallacy. I didn't think they existed.
Aristarchus, in the first instance, assuming shadows and spherical surfaces causing them. So the first, as you're calling it, the first time someone begged the question is going to be Aristarchus. And then you've got that assumption moving
Is it
forward with Al-Biruni.
Yep, and Eratosthenes as well. Was it Aristarchus or Eratosthenes?
Aristarchus.
I can't remember now.
Yeah, but you also have the Aristotle legend that he watched a boat go over the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, that comes later. But yes, that's correct also. But they all start with the assumption of a sphere-shaped Earth as the cause. And then they move forward in their correlation and give it as a just so story. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, guys. Sorry for the lateness. Enjoying
Adam.
gross but cute, Nathan.
Adam Meekin.
Yes, Daddy.
How you doing?
How are you
Meekin.
doing?
I filmed my two daughters sharing
Good.
an ice lolly. And while it was quite disgusting, it was also extremely endearing.
Yeah.
So they've got a real arithmetic problem, don't they, when they can't show a real measurement and their answer is, well, numerically,
Yeah, they're going to take it to the abstract always. That's where their belief is based, in a model, in the abstract maths. So that's where they're going to take you every time.
so then it's just a mental exercise.
Well, it was, but we've debunked the mental exercise. We've begged the question with them and then debunked it from within the begging the question fallacy to show how it's geometrically impossible to be a sphere based on the geometric limitations of a sphere. So we've debunked it. It's no longer tenable to assume R. It's not like you can just trust in R because they've always known. We've debunked it. It's untenable to assert geometry, and that's what the claim of a sphere is. It's a geometric claim. We've debunked it.
Right. Right. But if you're a baller, since it's not an actual measurement, it's a mental exercise and you're hanging on to it.
I'm going to go off on a slight sidetrack just because I've noticed that Pete Shea's in the chat. So on one of the Uncut and After shows, somebody at Google has got a sense of humour because I was laughingly saying, follow the dodo, follow the clues, basically having a little poke at Pete Shea. And then the comment was removed by the Google moderator team. I nearly wet myself. I thought it was hysterical. I was like, yeah, someone's got a sense of humour. Me saying, it's down to Aristarchus, follow the dodo. And then it's like, removed by the Google moderator team. I thought that was really funny. If Pete had been there, he'd have gone absolutely bonkers. He wasn't, unfortunately. I thought it was really funny. Whoever you are at Google, I appreciate that. It made me laugh. I like the fact that you've got a sense of humour, whoever you were. Moving on. I think we've exhausted Earth curve. Nice that it got discussed a bit more, though. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, no 15-degree drift of the Earth-based variety.
Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning, guys. What's going on?
What's going on, Chocolate?
We're trying to find drift 15 degrees of the Earth base.
Is that Travis?
Oh, shit.
What's up,
language?
Not
Been a
too
while.
much, yeah. Don't let Sleeping Warrior in, please.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Oops.
Damn
I'm
it.
just sending the link. Tony.
Do you know what? That's the last time I'm helping you on your computer, Travis.
Hey.
Calm down.
It's like the whole crew.
I was going to say, it feels like old times with Travis in.
Have we done gravity yet?
I was
just going to say,
that we need gravity.
we need the gravity question.
We need gravity.
Yeah, I'll get onto that. No worries. This is as rampacked as it's been in a while. Both Discord and now G+ are full. So we've got... In fact, it's over full. There's 13 spaces on Discord, and it's got 15 people in there. I quite know how that works. But there we go. We've got a rampacked panel today. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
There we go.
There it is.
Gravity. Scientific evidence thereof.
You know what? That was a spontaneous. When that first happened, who knows? Like, it was back in like 2018, maybe. When that first happened, it was just a spontaneous, and it was just beautiful. Just beautiful.
You know that spontaneity that you're describing? It has a name. Do you know what the name for spontaneous outbursts is called?
Ejaculations. I was going to say
It
that
is.
word. I was going to say that word, but I chose not to. But now you just made me say it.
That's fascinating.
Well, it's fine.
I heard that too.
Memorable.
I heard that too on a show
Ejaculation.
called Flat Earth Debate, Anthony.
I know, but random outbursts like scientific evidence of what? They do have the name ejaculation. It's brilliant use of the words.
I told you that.
That lost. You so did not.
Yeah, I did. Absolutely, I did. My God, your memory's terrible.
There's no way you're taking credit for that.
Yeah, I will. Absolutely. Without question.
Come on, boys.
Anyway, let's move on.
I remember Nathan saying it. I
said it twice. Anthony called me up on it. It's like, why are you saying that? And then I pointed out the meaning. You went and looked it up and you went, you're right. You even called me up to exclaim how correct I was about it, Anthony. Your memory's poor.
Actually, I am beginning to remember that now.
Oh, really?
I stand corrected.
Yeah, he did that a while ago. Yeah.
So I'll just repeat myself.
Like, why is he saying ejaculation? He's like, that's what it means. I'm using it right. Yep.
Anyway.
You got it.
To the Joe Bidens there, Tony.
Yeah. It's good to slip in conversation randomly with people that unsuspecting members of the public. It's brilliant. So,
Well,
is there any?
Hold on, sorry. Since we're talking about this word, when I was a churchgoer back in the 90s, I went to a church where the pastor was very shocking, right? He would say things that for shock value to get the people's attention. And
You didn't ejaculate all over the pasta, did you? That's
yeah. No, but you could have heard a pin drop when he said ejaculation for the first time, talking about, exclaiming our praises to God, ejaculating your praises. That was just like, everybody's just like, what the? Did he just say that?
Do you know, my deputy headmaster, Mr. Roby, he's dead now, but the first time I heard the word masticate, he said, Halliwell, are you masticating? Because David Halliwell was chewing gum and got caught, and everyone burst out laughing. It was a brilliant moment. Shout out to Mr. Roby.
Speaking of masticating, you know that Dos Equis meme where the guy says, I don't always do whatever, but when I do it with a Dos Equis spear or whatever. So I made one that says, I don't always masticate, but when I do it nice and slow.
That's fantastic.
With your lips open as well.
All this content is killing me.
Okay.
Anyway, so back on track. Do we have any scientific evidence of gravity, or do we just simply assume it, calculate it, and completely forget about the medium?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity, the reification thereof.
And their maths again.
No idea. Next question.
No, I don't think we should move off it. I think it's one of the most pertinent questions. I was talking to Seek Truth, Speak Lies recently in a thread, and I asked him, I said, like, how is it you can actually have jumped ship back to the globe when gravity, gravity's not a force? And his answer was, I don't care about gravity. And I'm like, well, you need to care about gravity if you think it's a sphere, because it's like fundamental to your belief structure. And he admitted that it didn't bother him. So basically what he was saying is that I still believe we live on a ball, and I'm prepared to ignore the fact that gravity is not a force because I still think it's a ball. And I was like, you're outrageous, man. And he wants to debate me, and I'm like, how can I have a debate with you?
I think he went for
got to
the
define
sandwich
what
instead of
gravity
the high-priced
is. How
meal.
can we talk about it before we do that?
I mean,
So
it's
what
outrageous
is
to
it?
think that somebody would want to debate me on a topic that he doesn't care about, even though it's fundamental to his belief structure. Come on.
Don't have separate
Rams
conversations.
is
Hold on,
observation
Don and
hijacking.
Rams. I will get to you. I've heard both of you, but if you just carry on because you think we haven't heard you, we have, but it just breaks up the conversation. Go on, Don Gio. What were you going to say?
I was telling Rams it's observation hijacking is what it is.
Yeah, it's I've had quite a few people coming to me and talking to me about things that Bob have said to them, and they've then come back to me and said, like, what's your position on this? And essentially, Bob just looks at this downwards acceleration, he calls it, and he says, well, that must be a force. And he just completely ignores the medium. And then he wants to imply or infer some force. And we all know what force he's thinking of applying and want to call it something else. But essentially, he completely ignores the medium. And if you completely ignore the medium, then you are going to ascribe a force to it because you do see something moving. But once you realize that there is an interaction, a relationship, a correlative effect, something going on with the medium, then no longer is it a force required. It is an interaction, a relative interaction. And once you know that all objects of mass are more dense than the medium that they're in, because the lightest known stuff is that graphene aerogel, which is still more dense than the air, then ultimately that then explains why there is this perception that people have that is a downwards acceleration, because it's not actually a downward acceleration. It's just a relative displacement of the medium. That's all it is. Once you know that, you don't need to go any further. You don't even need science for it because it's now explained.
Question. What's your guys' take on electrostatics being stronger than the so-called gravity?
We've already covered this. Rams just asked, we've got to define what gravity is first before we start redefining it as the incoherent dielectric acceleration.
Right.
Yeah, we always have to define gravity, and the current definition in physics or in science today is the effect of the curvature of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass. Now, whoever wants to apply that to Newton's apple, be my guest, but that is the definition. So good luck with applying that. But for me, I look at the apple moving and I say, yeah, it's moving because the stalk snapped. It's more dense than its medium. It displaces its medium. No force required. But if you don't if you don't reference the medium, then you're going to apply that force. And we all know the force that's going to be applied until we apply it to helium balloons. And then it's a bit of an issue, which everyone overlooks. We don't need to go any further.
Well, you did miss a step, technically speaking, in that tree description. So, was the tree always just there in equilibrium? Did it naturally start life in equilibrium on its stalk?
Mm-hmm. And
the apple, no, it grows, doesn't it, from a little bud?
Which way did it grow?
Well, initially, it's like very much like a similar density to the air it's in. It's a little bit more dense, but it's not really putting a force onto the branch. But as it gains mass by nutrition from the tree itself, that gaining of matter, mass, whatever you want to call it, starts to play on that on the branch, doesn't it? And eventually, it gets to a point where it snaps off because the stalk can no longer hold it anymore, and it's because it's more dense than its medium. However, if you had the tree growing underground, the apple would fall up. That's the bit that everyone forgets.
No. I don't need to give a false analogy with the apple falling up from underground. Just answer my question. Initially, let's take it from the stage that I've planted an apple and it's grown into a little bud. Can you pop yourself on mute, whoever that is in Discord? You see it in the ground as a little bud. There's no apple yet. Yeah? From that position, which way does it go?
Depends. If I'm upside down and I'm looking from a nearby tree, it would grow down to the sky.
No, my God. Just looking
It'll
at a
grow
bud
up.
on the ground. Just
It grows
kindly
up,
play
it
along,
grows up.
Nancy. Jesus, why'd you have to be so awkward? Where's Arwen when you need him? Right.
Well, the reason, see, I was doing it on purpose.
Wow.
We all know that trees grow towards the light in the sky. They grow up, right?
Up.
But that word up,
That's all I need, because the next question's coming from that. So, is the bud, in the first instance, more dense or less dense than the air that surrounds it?
it's more dense
And which direction did you say it's going again?
towards the soil.
I said
No. It's popped its head out. There's a bud.
Which do you mean relative to the human? It would be going
Oh.
down if it's relative to the human.
No, it bloody wouldn't. God, you're so awkward. This is now the shyest
Go
example
up.
ever. Thank you, Anthony. Well done. The tree's growing upwards. For the love of Jesus,
Yes.
Anthony.
Well,
Grows
I don't know, because you can argue that the roots are growing down.
The apple is the
Well,
example.
yeah, but we're talking about a tree.
Hello, Discord.
Oh.
Thank you. I don't need help. Anthony, you started with a bud. It's going to end up in your example with the tree. I'm saying when the apple falls, it's gone from nothing, soil, apple, underground, to the position where it's in equilibrium hanging by its stalk. There's an in-between stage. Which direction did it go in the in-between? How much more bloody specific have I got to be, Anthony?
I know, but I don't like saying the word down because the problem with saying down, it implies that there's a downwards acceleration that Bob
It's not going
misinterprets
down.
when
Oh
he
my
said-
God. From the bud poking its head out of the soil to the apple then hanging months later, which direction did it go between point A on the ground and point A up in the air hanging above the ground? Which direction did it go then?
Towards the sky.
Okay, fine, that's good enough. So it didn't go in a downward vector. It took a prolonged period defying gravity on its way up to find itself in equilibrium to be eventually forced out of disequilibrium or into disequilibrium when the stalk is blown enough for whatever to then come down. So prior to that down that you're attributing an accelerative force or incoherent dielectric acceleration to, you've got quite a lot of going up, right, Anthony? My point, which we've finally got to.
Yeah, and they're all to assert that there is this downwards perception is just wrong because everything's got an equal and opposite reaction according to the laws of motion. So if there's something growing up, there's something obviously equal and opposite going the opposite way as well. But the reality is this downwards acceleration bias isn't even there. It's explained by real world. It's just claimed that way so that you can beg the question that there is a force. Well, that means that you're not addressing the mediums. So let's not beg the question of forces and point out that there's always a relationship between the medium. That's where we should conclude this point.
Can I add something at this point?
I'll put it on screen, Paul. Go ahead.
I found this. This is actually from classic physics. It's not something that's just, some made up thing. But this is how they can describe forces. It's another way to describe it using potential and kinetic energy. It says it in there. I can share the video that this came from. If you give me a second, I'll do that. And I mean, I didn't watch the whole video. I stopped when I got to this point. I got sidetracked with something else. But I just thought this was interesting because the one thing we have discussed on the show is like the aspect of kinetic energy and potential energy. You know what I mean? So I just thought this was interesting. So I don't have much more to say other than that. But I just thought this is an interesting concept. I'll drop the video so I can get back and watch it. So.
I'm pretty sure that they use the V as a G, though, where you have potential energy. They're going to be using it in a description that counteracts gravity. So, for example, they've got things like gravity clocks, essentially just a... Paul, can you pop yourself on mute?
Yeah, hang on,
They've
sorry.
got things like gravity clocks, where they're essentially just putting a load of potential energy in, which is your V in this equation, and they then call it, like I said, gravity clock. Well, why? Well, because it's releasing the potential energy. Now, I don't know where they will hijack this V, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they do, because I've seen it done with gravity clocks as an example.
I just want to shout out to the chat to remind chat that laws of motion are descriptive. They tell us what things do. Doesn't mean that they're causative. We're just describing things that we see. It's all right saying that laws of nature are what they are.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nonsense.
Why would that be?
Why would they not have any? I can't speak to that.
Well, why would astrophysics not be able to be capable of producing a valid experiment?
They are. They are certainly capable. We're all capable. They just don't. I can't speak to why they don't. They've got a lot of just so stories they attribute to science, which is why we're asking. They claim science. Maybe you can fill me in if I'm missing what you're driving at, Anthony.
Well, astrophysics or astrology or astronomy, I always get them two mixed up. Generally, they're observation-based. They don't have any experimental application because you can't wiggle anything to prove cause and effect. You just look at something and go, ooh, pretty colours. Let's speculate to what the cause of those colours are. Maybe a cosmic galaxy exploded trillions of years ago and we're seeing the redshift. Who cares? It's all observation-based. There's no experiment, which is one of the reasons why the Eddington experiment, that's not an experiment, it's merely an observation, does not in any way prove that Einstein was correct because it's all observation-based. To do science, you've got to give it a wiggle, and that's the bit that we always seem to forget.
Therefore, not natural.
We don't forget that. They seem to forget that. And they
Correct.
claim it's science.
Correct. I stand
Natural
corrected.
science,
Well done, Chocolate.
Yeah, exactly, Chocolate. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Assume.
There is no distance to the sun.
This is something that I occasionally see you claiming, Travis.
What?
I might be mistaking you for somebody else, but I'm going to go on a hunch that you occasionally assert causal relationships with suns and their distances across a flat plane. Am I wrong?
Position, not distance, but the position of the sun is important when making these observations.
Apparent position.
Yeah.
Tell us more, Travis. I'm so pleased you're here. I'd love to know all about what the sun is and how it does it and its position, etc., etc.,
Oh,
etc.
no. I'm not making a claim as to what the sun is. I'm saying that when I make my observations with refraction phenomena, the position of the sun is a variable for which account must be taken. And whenever you look at Andrew Thomas Young or anybody else talking about the variables that are that contribute to the effects of refraction, they never talk about the position of the sun. But in all of my observations from morning until evening, the position of the sun is changing all day long, as well as are my observations. So it has to be a variable that cannot be wiggled.
Definitely agree.
No, I totally agree. And it's obviously, I couldn't agree more. In fact, you've got to get this stuff down because you'll be held to task on it if you don't. We're held to a higher standard. But no, I think I'm mistaking you with somebody else who's claiming distances over flat planes and orbits.
Phew, dodged that bullet.
But that said, there's quite a lot of flat earthers here, right? There's any...
Let me just...
Go on.
Just let me address something that Akumo Virus has just said in chat. He's just said basically, he said, is there anybody that can address what the problem is with gravity? And I've lost it. Can anybody say what's wrong with gravity and the laws of motion away from your opinion? Yeah. So I addressed it before. If you look at an object and it's moving, be it up or down, if you ignore the medium that it's in, you can then ascribe a force to that movement because an acceleration requires a force. And we all know what force is going to be ascribed. However, if you acknowledge the medium and the density of the object in question, then the force that you would then ascribe cannot then be ascribed because you've got a relationship between the two objects, the density of the object relative to the density of the medium, and we know which way it's going to go relative to, you know, the parameters in question. More dense stuff will go in one direction towards the density, and the less dense object will go towards the less density. That's the way the things go to seek equilibrium out. It's a relative relationship. And the word relative doesn't mean Einstein. It just means that the two objects relative to each other have an interaction. And basically, that's what Einstein did say with the uneven distribution of mass. When you have two objects competing for the same space, there is an interaction. And it's magnitude. It's called magnitude, a relative magnitude. But we know what causes that. It is the interaction between the density on the object and the thing in question. So when you say, can you say what's wrong with gravity and the laws of motion? Yeah, if you ignore the medium, it allows you to ascribe a force, and we all know which one you're going to ascribe. But if you reference the medium, then no force is necessary. We know what the explanation is. So let's not infer gravity as a force. Let's respect the medium that everything's in, even when it's a vacuum. Next.
Anyone want to add anything? If not, I'm going to ask the next housekeeping question. Go ahead.
Why would they continue to assert gravity is a force when their own side, the people that they got this crap from, tell them it's not a force?
Because they've got to cherry pick.
Continue to do that.
They have to cherry pick the science that agrees with their delusion.
Not science.
Even when the very people that give them this so-called science tell them that it's opposite of what they're claiming, they don't find that to be a little delusional. That's just crazy.
Chocolate, that's the same. Chocolate, that's the same thing that the quantum eraser put on, and we've all seen. NASA says they're going to the vacuum of space, flying all this crap. Then they say that their instruments only work over a flat, motionless plane.
Yeah, I want to point out that when we, if we use a slip of the tongue and we use the word weight instead of mass or mass instead of weight, they'll major on that minor and say, "Oh, it's weight, you fool, and you're a moron. You should have said weight, not mass. Mass is a whatever." And they'll make a big deal out of that misspeak, right? We all know what was meant at the time, and we accept it was a misspeak. But when it comes to the importance of the fundamental principles of their thing, they completely ignore the fact that gravity is not a force, and they pretend that it is a force because we see something moving. Well, the problem is if it's not a force, it's not being pushed or pulled by the thing that you think is pushing or pulling it, because gravity isn't a force. But they ignore the semantical argument of that bit, and they just pass over it as though it's okay to pick and choose. But yet you misspeak and get mass or weight wrong the wrong way round. Woe betide you! But it's all right for them to completely ignore the tenet that is the religion that is based on it not being a force. It's outrageous.
The person you were addressing did exactly that as you were saying it. So from the chat, weight and mass aren't the same, says Occam Virus. Right. So in other words, majored on the minor. Ignored your point about it not being a force, despite the rhetoric telling them so, and majored on a minor. So, yeah, Anthony, timing is everything, Virus. Thank you so much for making Anthony's point as he was making it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just throw in for Brian. Brian said gravitas and gravity are two different things too, but they don't accept that one.
There's a difference there, isn't there, with regards to what Akuma's just said, is that it demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of his own model, because it's only weight and mass aren't the same in his model, where they are defined by gravity. So
yeah, see, I can use the word weight and mass interchangeably when I'm talking as this side of the topic, but I know intrinsically that if I'm on their side of the topic while I'm talking, I've got to be really careful. But for us, on our side, weight and mass are essentially the same thing. I know mass is conceptual, but weight's kind of conceptual in the sense that we feel weight. Well, we can feel mass too. They're both kind of the same thing, but they're different on their side, because obviously one of them's weight is like mass, a concept, multiplied by an acceleration due to gravity. It's not force. That's also a concept. That's a concept multiplied by a concept gives you what we call weight. Well, we can interchange between those words, provided we're clear that we're on our side of the topic. But do we do it on their side and get it wrong? Woe betide us. Yet they'll completely gloss over the gravity is not a force argument, and they'll completely ignore it. It's ridiculous.
We can all measure weight, yeah, and weight and mass do us same thing. The difference for a baller is you have to apply a fundamental religious belief to weight to calculate, in their world, mass.
Rumpus is in chat. I'd love Rumpus to come on and explain the reflection.
Travis wanted to say something.
I was actually saying something. Just give me a sec.
But you've been talking so long. Just like, come on, man, wrap it up.
Rumpus, get your ass in. Get your ass in, Rumpus.
Wow.
Right, I'm going to shut you all up and read out a super chat, which is far more important. Anyway, shout out to Godzilla37, who says, was Rumpus the last? Where, oh where have all the Globers gone? Where, oh where did they go? And then Rumpus appeared. So, you got your wishes, Godzilla. Thank you for the super chat.
Where, oh, where has my globe Earth gone?
Type in, Travis.
Where can it be?
Can I add something to what Sleeping was just saying?
Sorry.
I just wanted to jump back real quick to talk about the variables in making observations with the Mirage. When you look at Andrew Thomas Young and others who describe the different variables, let's say temperature, water temperature, barometric pressure, right? None of those variables are able to be manipulated. You can't see how much. All right, I was just getting a call. You can't see how much the barometric pressure affects the observation because you can't turn off the barometric pressure. So I said earlier that the sun is a variable that you cannot manipulate. Now, that doesn't mean that the sun's position doesn't change the observation throughout the day, because the sun is moving and the observations that I make change at sunset from where they were at noon. And if the sun is the cause, I can't turn the sun off at that moment and see what the difference is and say, oh, that's how the sun is changing this observation, right? So there are so many variables that we cannot manipulate in these observations. Listen, if you haven't looked into this, they don't know what the hell is happening out there. All they do is look, describe, and then describe again with maths and think that they've got the answer. So sorry, that was just in my head. Wanted to get it out.
That's fine.
Travis, have you seen the laser observation that Taboo Conspiracy released, the 19-mile one in his last 2448?
Yeah.
How do you interpret the reflection underneath the source light?
Yeah, I just see it. It's there.
Yeah, I agree. I just see it. It's there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
there's nothing. Yeah, it's not more complicated than that. It's really not. I say this all the time in my videos. The reason why we can see this 9-mile observation, the reason why we can see this 12, 20-mile observation is because the object is in front of us. Well, the other day you couldn't see the observation. That's right, because the conditions of the medium on that day were the obstruction. That's why, not Earth curve.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I agree with you on your points, Travis. Definitely a lot of things.
Any evidence?
I mean, Earth curve, you mean that Earth curve that only exists in the math?
That's the one.
AKA the geometric horizon.
Yeah. Nathan's premiere yesterday was absolute gold. So good yesterday, Nathan.
Which one? I can't remember which one it was.
The one that you were talking about, the when he said, imagine, I want you to think about balls or whatever, and you said,
we hear that a lot here.
Balls.
You have to be more specific.
The hypnotist.
But thank you. I don't know which one you mean. I've released loads recently.
Well, I think the best way to describe most ball earthers is they are flat blurthers, because they see flat, but in their mind they construct it into a curve, and they see flat, but they think curve. It's like a paradox, but they don't realize it's a paradox. It's like one of those things where, one of those like images things where you see a man's face side on, but if you squint and change your perspective, you see an old lady's face, and you have to take time to look at it and twist it into the opposite. Some people can never see the opposite, but then others people see it straight away. They've got to do that with the flat plane. They convert it into a ball, and they see that, and they can't see that it's flat. They just see the alternative and don't even question it.
So do flat earthers.
You're saying Earth is like a giant Rorschach test?
Yeah.
No. When I say so do flat earthers, what I mean is when people say we see too far, or the clock shouldn't be there. So I just see a clock. There's a clock. You want to know how far it is? Okay, it's 20 miles away. It's just a clock at 20 miles. End of explanation for me as a flat earther. No explanation is required. Why would I explain seeing a clock? It's just a clock. In fact, happens to be quite some distance away. So what? Well, for a glober, and some flat earthers, well, the clock shouldn't be there. What do you mean the clock shouldn't be there? It is there. There it is. Right? What do you mean it shouldn't be there? Well, because Earth curve should be in the way. Should it? No. But that's what flat earthers will say also.
Yeah, they'll say if we lived on a sphere, we shouldn't see that.
Check out this, Nathan. Let me know when it's on screen.
Well, when
this
you
is
put it in,
Hold on, Anthony. Go ahead.
I can see it.
Hold on, Neil. Go ahead.
No, I was done. I was just saying because they'll turn around and say, if Earth was a sphere, then we should not be able to see that. We see too far. That's how it goes.
So this is Stephen Cheatley, and Stephen Cheatley is the guy that did the observation from Winter Hill or Rivington Hill, overlooking Blackpool and then picking out Isle of Man in the background. Same guy, he's just got a massive telescope this time, and what he's doing is he's basically doing the Ranty observation of Barrow from somewhere in Blackpool. I don't know exactly where he is. Somebody will have asked him. I'm not on Instagram to be able to focus on the comments, but to be able to see this, if the Earth's a sphere, you've got to be 200 feet tall, because that's the amount of curve that's supposed to, or drop that this thing's supposed to be at. Now, he's at Blackpool, he's on the promenade somewhere. He could be on a building, doesn't really matter. He's not at 200 feet. So he could be at 25 feet, could be at 50 feet, could even be at 100 feet if you want to say, like, you want to push it out. But the point is, if it's a sphere, then this thing can't even be seen unless he's at 200 feet. Now, wherever he is, he's not at 200 feet when he's at Blackpool Prom. Yet he can go right the way across to Barrow, and basically this kind of supersedes Ranty's stuff, because it's in the sense that it's much clearer and it's zoomed in more with more power. But look at the background. Look at how blurred or faded, that's the word, faded, and how you can't pick out you can't pick out windows, for example. You can see a couple of sheep, perhaps, or whatever these buildings are, or whatever. But look how blurred it is. That's like looking in the swimming pool. The further back the wall of the swimming pool goes, the more pale it goes. But the point is, you can see this at 20 miles away from the beach, not the beach, from Blackpool somewhere, promenade or wherever, and there is no Earth curve. But blurthers will just whistle past this and just go, it's just a nice picture. Yeah, well, apply it real world. Where's the curve? And there isn't any. He's not at 200 feet to be able to get this. So shout out to Stephen Cheatley.
Epic.
How come the buildings aren't leaning backwards?
Just as I gave you my example of clock at 20 miles, someone else is doing precisely that. What's our explanation? There isn't one required. Earth is obviously and observably flat. I don't need to give any explanation for this. There's a clock, it's 20 miles away. We see it because it's there.
Yeah, the beauty of this, though, too, if Stephen Cheatley has other observations that he's made from this, let's say, for instance, he knows exactly where he sets up this telescope. So he goes back every single time and sets up in the exact same place. This image will never repeat itself. That clock will be in a different spot. The mirage at the water line will be at a different spot and a different depth. Everything will be different. Nothing will be the same.
I just want to point this out as well. Nathan, am I still on screen?
Yes.
Look at the effective perspective that we're seeing. These are the buildings in the foreshore, like on the shoreline. These are the bigger things that we can see, but everything else that's behind it's getting smaller because it's further away, but it's accumulated over distance. So the effect of the perspective is pushing back for even further. But just contrast that to what should be this image here. Let me bring this one over. But if it's on a sphere, of course, not only should they be getting smaller, they should be dropping away. Now, the thing is, really, the stuff on the foreground, let's go back to the image. There's the stuff in the foreground that's bigger than the stuff behind it over distance. And you can still see stuff in the background. But the thing is, all these things have got to be dropping away. So what blurthers will do is they'll say, well, it is all dropping away. We can't see it. But what we say is, well, these things on the front here are bigger than the things behind it because of perspective. And they're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller into the distance. He's got this massive lens telescope to be able to see this. And then this thing in the background, this mountain or whatever it is, the hill or whatever, they would then argue, well, that's also dropped behind the curve because it's obviously significantly further away. And we say, nah, actually, look how big it is. It's clearly not dropping behind the curve. It's clearly in the background. It's just getting further and further and further away. But most importantly, it isn't dropping. There is no drop. It is flat. We're looking at something that's flat because there's no drop.
Up a second. Let me just summarize this. So as a flat earther, we say, There's a clock. It's 20 miles away. No further explanation is required. If you are a globe earther, you say, no, that's not a clock. It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hologram of the clock from behind the now debunked, reified, geometric, physical sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, blocking it from our view. Then the light is being bent around the curve of the Earth at a rate that's derived from a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon by Al-Biruni. So we've got 7/6r, or any derivative thereof, that we need to bend this clock back into view from behind the edge of an Earth curve we don't see. Therefore, it's not a clock, it's actually a hologram. You don't really see it, it's not really there. This is a hologram clock. That's what you have to say if you're a globe believer. Me, as a flat earther, stating prior, Earth is obviously and observably flat. There's a clock, it's at 20 miles.
If you didn't give that explanation with such scorn in your voice, you'd make a pretty good baller.
Oh, I see. So you say, if I say, well, you don't really see the clock. It's obviously behind Earth curve. Look at my geometry. It says it's not there. The math says it's not there. So in reality, what you're seeing, you're not seeing. It's a mirage. Is that better?
Yep. That was, but you got to be talking down to somebody too. So it's almost there. You just got to work on it a little bit.
Okay, try one more. Give me one more attempt. So, no, Anthony, can you move it off screen? God, you're ruining my presentation. It's totally not mine. It's Anthony's. Kudos, by the way. So, no, it's not a clock that you're just seeing. What is your malfunction? It's actually a mirage of the clock because the math says it's behind the Earth curve edge. And obviously there's refraction. Look at all the bendy cranes. So therefore it's refracted from behind the reified edge of Earth curve. It's just a mirage. Is that better?
I just want to add. Yeah. I just want to add something here. Look at this. Taboo Conspiracy's latest video. It's 19 miles away, which coincidentally just happens to be the same distance that we're looking at. And the amount of curve that's supposed to be on his image represents more than the height of this building. There should be 200 feet of Earth curve, right? And this building is measured at 164 feet tall. So in Taboo Conspiracy's video, he should be seeing 200 feet
no,
of
he
drop,
shouldn't.
right?
Stop. Good example. Great. Ruined by you saying there should be. No, there shouldn't be. It's just a clock. I see it. It's there. There shouldn't be something in the way, Anthony, as you're now phrasing it.
If the Earth's a sphere. However, when we see it real world, there isn't anything missing. Now, the problem is we don't have massive telephoto lenses the way that this guy's got one. So we can zoom in on it with the P900 or the P1000 and it's bigger smudged and not as clear. Look at the imagery that's supposed to be there. But that building stands at 164 feet tall. Now, his 19-mile observation here is supposed to have that 200 feet of drop, right? Geometric drop. And by the way, the horizon is meant to be 1 mile away. But essentially, look at this in daylight. Same distance, no drop. So it's like, how much clearer do you need it to be? This is probably one of the best images that I've ever seen. And this goes beyond Ranty's work, as good as that work was at the time. Look at this. Same observation. Okay, he might be a bit higher because he's on the promenade, or he could even be on some kind of platform. Who cares? He's not at 200 feet on a cliff, is he? Which is what he needs to be on a sphere. So wherever he is, shout outs to him. It's just fantastic.
I don't know if I'd say it supersedes Ranty. The original's always going to be the best. My quotes and comments are only so concise because of Ranty's image and me describing it to other people as a clock that's just there at 20 miles as a flat earther who knows the Earth is obviously flat. But for this image to be better in resolution is akin to me having a description from Quantum Eraser about how refraction is useful in the Black Swan. It's like not necessarily the case in Ranty's images, but by the same token, it's just the same, right? It's the same clock.
Yeah, but it's 5 o'clock here. You can even read the time on the clock.
That's true.
It's just flabbergasting how clear and obvious it is that there is no curve, but they'll just whistle past it and they'll just go, yeah, pictures from space.
Tony,
yo,
we had that. You flashed up that Taboo Conspiracy one then. Yeah. When we see the clock, we do say we see the clock, and I think the ballers can make arguments for X, Y, and Z as to why it's bending around their presupposed fault. But on this one, we appear to be seeing the laser and also the reflection of the laser on the surface of the water.
Yeah.
And I think we were chatting yesterday, and you'd need Dr. John D for this, but I'm sure he can show with ray tracing that it is impossible on a curved surface to see both the source and the reflection. Yeah, it's only possible on a flat surface where you can see the light source itself, where you have a direct line of sight to the original light point.
Well, you know yourself, if you're not looking,
you cannot get the reflection and the thing in the same image.
well, you know yourself with these lasers, these LED, same with LED lights, if you're not on axis and looking right at the filament, I know it's not a filament, but if you're not looking right down the barrel of the gun, then you don't see it looking like this. You don't even see it. You've got to be, it's very much like a shotgun effect, isn't it? But the point is, like, I don't even know how this is what I want Rumpus to join for. I want Rumpus to explain how we can see the reflection of the light source at 19 miles away when they're like 2 feet above the water, Rumpus. I mean, I'll show you the camera height here so you can see it for yourself. And I know you're not going to believe it. You're going to say it's dishonest. But, I mean, what's that, 2 feet? Maybe 2.5 foot if you include the height of the camera on top of the tripod. It's not a lot. 19 miles. How do you get the reflection underneath the light source? Because you can't do it. It's impossible.
You don't. This has been concluded.
That means that there is no curve. So all those boats going over the horizons, yeah, obviously it's an optical effect, isn't it? It's being caused by something else other than Earth curve. So Galileo was wrong if he even existed. Your ball Earth nonsense is dead.
Indeed.
Earth has kind of semi-proved it, hasn't he, by still not providing that ray tracing from the Isle of Man that would demonstrate those paths. He's still the thing that...
Ray tracing is a farce, okay?
I'm not saying that, but it was Rumpus's way of saying that the Isle of Man stuff he could debunk, and we're still waiting 2 years for his debunking.
Yeah, well, you're going to be waiting a long, long time because he's been on Brandon's show, and I have been hitting him up for 6 citations at least that he has yet to provide for claims that he's made. So you're never going to see that stuff.
Hey, he owes us.
He's in chat right now.
Yeah, I know.
He wants to get on, but he says the panel on Discord is full.
It must be killing him.
I know, but don't dare remove anybody from Discord. Just a
Kick
word.
somebody out and get his ass on.
No, don't kick anybody out. Can't do that.
You said you wanted to talk to him.
Needs to be kicked out.
If they're not
No one needs to be kicked out. He can be dragged in.
Calm down.
If anybody
Everyone
does
get a grip.
administration, they'll get in trouble.
I think we'll have a conclusion from Anthony, then we'll move on because we've still got a few housekeeping questions.
I think the conclusion is that this I mean, Taboo Conspiracy's observation at nighttime or dark at 19 miles, showing the reflection underneath. Forget the light source. We know that you apply 7/6R or some deviation of that or whatever. But this can't be explained on a sphere. So on a sphere, you would get the original light source, but that would be it, right? Because that's what they're bending. But you can't. How would they bend this? They can't do it. But when you add to that, let's go back to this. What the amount of curve, like it's just 164 feet tall in the daylight with a mega telescope. Imagine what we could do if we had like $64 million a day. Imagine the stuff that we could. Why don't they point their telescopes to the horizon and let's see what we can see in good conditions? Because it would be so much clearer. You could probably pick out Ranty in his window waving at us back. It's like, they've got that level of ability to do good. But they'll never do it because ultimately, they don't want us to see this. That's why we've got limitations. But this is what Taboo Conspiracy's video should be hiding. All of this land, same distance, but we see it.
Who else gave that call to action? About 5 years ago now. Math Powerland I think he was discussing it with his. I hope this doesn't stir the pot because I think it was with a former girlfriend. But nevertheless. Math Powerland was saying to people exactly that. He almost used the verbatim terms that you did, Anthony. He said, turn your telescopes to the horizon. He said it is almost verbatim what you just said. About 5 years ago, he gave the exact same call to action.
And they still haven't done it?
Well, what I'm saying is that those sorts of things are now emerging, right? That is... I'm not saying that... what's the name of this guy so I can credit him again like you have, Anthony?
Stephen Chetney or
Stephen Cheatley. So I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily inferring that Stephen Cheatley has responded to Math Powerland's call to action. However, the point is that that is a call to action that Math Powerland has put out there, and now here we are 5 years later, saying, "Here we go. This is a clock, 20 miles. As a flat earther, I can state Earth is obviously and observably flat, and there is no explanation needed to say clock. I could just say clock. Maybe I'll give the distance as a flat earther." Now, that is because someone has pointed their scope at the horizon, right? That's my point. You said it the same way as Matt said it. I just thought it was interesting.
It's true, though, isn't it? I mean, if we can see with more expensive equipment, why can't they point it at the horizon? Oh, because they're not accountable to flat earthers. Well, show the true nature of the world and see what we actually can see. I think there's more scientific endeavour in looking at this than looking at splodges in the sky that they tell us are distant galaxies. Wow. Let's see how far we can see. See if we can see Paris from New York. That's West China, isn't it?
It'll just take a second.
You can't, because I'm going to squeeze in. Hold on, Travis. Hold on, and Discord, hold on. I'm just going to squeeze in the last. It probably will be the last, although it's not all of them complete. Any evidence that we can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all the fundies who think that space is real?
No, I'm not interested.
It's the insufficient force.
The less you talk, the more chance I have to show.
One at a time. One at a time. Go on, Armin.
I wanted to say gravity because it is the weak force that's not actually a force. Can't hold the gas pressure to the ball versus the outer space vacuum, which is endless. But that's the proof anyway.
Travis wanted to say something.
Go ahead, Travis. Then Eli.
No, I was just saying the less we talk, the more opportunity I have to show something.
Oh, I'll make some up then. So,
did you want to show something?
Yeah, I asked if we could, and then I thought you said no because you wanted to go through the things. I'll just do it real quick. It shouldn't take too long. It follows right what Sleeping Warrior was talking about.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So talking about seeing farther and whatnot, we have. I even came across somebody who said in a chat that we should be able to see across the Atlantic. Okay. So this is an image of Pontchartrain that I got last month. Can anybody see that? Is it up?
It's on screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's an image of Pontchartrain, and you can see the power towers going out, and then about right here, our visibility stops. Okay, that's what my camera can see. That's what my eye could see. Here's where the levels change. This is the same. This is the same timestamp. Now all the way out here. Okay, go back. All right, here's where they ended here visually, right here. And then here, with the levels changed, we're seeing farther, okay? So it's not that difficult to cut through the polarization, but the reason why we can't see as far as you would like is because the medium through which we are looking is the obstruction every single time. That's all.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!